Hello, this is Breaking Down the Barriers, and we are your hosts, Terry Russell and Beverly Reeves. And today we have Leo Anderson, the Athletic Director for AISD, and we have Chief Deputy Sheriff Jim Sylvester of the Travis County Sheriff's Department, and we are going to be discussing domestic violence awareness.
So thank you both for joining us today. So first of all, what is the Domestic Violence Awareness Campaign and how long has it been in existence?
Well, October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we will be having our fifth annual kickoff campaign at House Park on September 23rd. We're going to be inviting our football players and volleyball players out so that we can raise awareness about the issue on that date.
Great. And what brought about this collaboration between Travis County Sheriff's Department and Austin ISD?
Well, at the Sheriff's Office, we thought it was important to include, to broaden our horizons and reach out to the student athletes, because all too often the student athletes are the leaders on campus. Right. They set the tone, they set the agenda on how the students, how they react and what they do and what they don't do during the season, because those leaders on the varsity level are the leaders on the field, on the gridiron, on the court, and on the campus. And so we thought it'd be important to help network with the local school districts to share the important message of Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Great, that's great. Are there any other organizations involved in this campaign?
Sure, there are. The Texas Advocacy Project is one of them that's involved. They've done an outstanding job. Also, Safe Place. We've partnered with those organizations to bring about awareness around this really national and international issue that's taken place. So we're happy to have those partners on board. And again, we're trying to get out in front of the issue so that all of our players know what's taking place and what they can do to help mitigate what's going on.
Then also with the law enforcement side, we have the Precinct 5 Constable's offices involved, AISD, campus police are involved, and so we're getting a lot of the local law enforcement agencies are also joining in on this effort to bring awareness to the community.
Okay. Now, Coach Anderson, you mentioned at the top of the show that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So can you talk a little bit about how the focus on, especially with student athletes, what it is that we're really trying to get them to understand?
Well, our slogan is football is a contact sport and love should not be. So that's what we're trying to broadcast out to everyone. And really, we want all of our athletes doing the right things on the court, off the court, on the field, off the field. And we want them treating women with respect. They deserve respect, and everyone deserves respect. And that's something that we're really trying to stress this year is respecting yourself first and respecting other individuals as a whole. I think that's something that's really important. And if we can start to stress that now, hopefully we'll see less issues as they, throughout high school, as they get into college, into life. We hope that we can bring awareness, really teach them about the values that they should have in terms of respecting themselves and others, and that's something that will help down the line.
Now, working in law enforcement, do you find that only men are the offenders, or do you also find women aggressors in domestic violence issues?
Both. Although we keep saying and put emphasis on men and young men and boys, but they make up about 96% of the aggressors. But there are women and young ladies and girls who are the aggressors. They make 4 or 5% on that, and so they're much involved as in that part as well. It's important that we make sure everyone understands it's just not the males. It's a joint effort. Everybody's involved in that.
So, with this program, since you've been doing it for how many years?
It's our 5th year.
How do the kids respond? I mean, they're so young. Do they think that this is something that they don't have to worry about now?
I think they respond quite well because a lot of them have witnessed domestic violence in their own home, at their friend's house, a relative's house. They know themselves may have committed some acts of domestic violence and they just weren't sure what it was. I mean, because you don't know what you don't know. And so the pushing or shoving that they've done with their girlfriend or boyfriend may not, in their mind, constitute domestic violence, but it is. And so we bring awareness to them, help them understand and to put a definition to domestic violence. And we also are able to give them resources because a lot of the student athletes, they see it, they're aware of it, but they go, who do I call? Where do I go? How do I address this with my friend? to tell them to stop this or to get help. And so with the domestic violence hotline number, with Safe Place and Texas Advocacy Project, we give the student athletes resources they can use to call to get help for themselves or a friend.
Are the counselors on the high school campuses aware of this program, and are they prepared for when the kids approach them? Because somebody on campus has to be there to help out if they're not comfortable coming to the coach or their teachers or whatever.
Sure, absolutely. I would say that they are, and that's also something that we're also reaching out to more to get more visibility around this issue. Because you're right, you know, there is help that's needed at the campus level, but also it could be something as simple as one of our players saying, hey, let's don't do that. That's not cool. You know, if they see something going on or something taking place, you know, if we can give them a few things that just will help them intervene quickly, a lot of times that can go a long ways to helping stop whatever may be occurring.
So what about middle school? Are we reaching out to our middle school players?
We're getting there. I mean, that's another process, another step in what we need to do. And right now we're excited to be at the high school level, and because it's really growing. We started off with just a few high schools, and now we have Travis County, all the high schools in Travis County, and all those now surrounding counties are involved in the program. And so I think just through progression, just naturally, there's going to be a trickle-down effect. They're going to hear about, you know, some of the student athletes have siblings that are in the junior high level, and they say, oh, and they'll come home and say, hey, I went to the domestic violence awareness campaign, and naturally they're going to have that relationship with their siblings or next door neighbor friends, and they're going to hear about it. So it's already happening unofficially, I guess, just by attrition and people hearing about it, word of mouth. But eventually we'll try and get down there to the junior high level. It'll be a big task, but I think we're up for the challenge.
So it sounds like it's about starting those conversations. So when you see someone who might be a victim of domestic violence, learning how to stop that or guide them so that they can get some assistance, or if you find yourself in a domestic violence situation or your parents or some of your family members are, it's about having that conversation. I remember we had guests on here, some students from one of our high schools who actually have a group on campus that talks about what to do if they find themselves in situations. So it sounds like this is just an extension where you have student athletes who are already the leaders on campus. Everybody always looks to, especially the football players, to set the examples, to be the role models. And so can you talk a little bit about maybe, since it's not officially at the middle school, how the student athletes, once they attend this actual event at the end of the month, will go back to their campus and start trying to affect some change?
One of the things we did last year in the spring, we went by and talked with different high schools, talked with the coaches, and talked about the importance of domestic violence, and talked about their role as a coach and how meaningful their relationships can be and how much impact that they have on those athletes. I mean, everybody who played high school athletics, they may forget their teachers, but they're never going to forget their coaches. And I mean, their coaches are very impactful. I mean, and I told the coaches that during the school year, they're going to be the parent, whether they like it or not. They're going to be spending more time with those student athletes than they will than the student athlete will with their own parents. And what they do and what they say and the impacts they have is going to be, you know, unbelievable impact they're going to have, and it's going to carry with them for generations. So visiting with the coaches and having that is great. The athletes, I think, are really excited about the program, at least the ones that come out to the, I don't know if it's exciting about getting out of class or being part of the program, but I'm hoping it's part of the program because we've gotten some positive feedback throughout the year, so it's been great.
Sure, and just to add to that, we had a great turnout last year. We had about 12 school districts represented here in Central Texas, and so we had a good number of student athletes that came out. And you're right, if we can affect those leaders on the campus, when they go back to the campus, they're the ones that influence the climate at that school. And we want them taking this information back. We want them influencing that climate, that culture of the campus in a positive direction. And so that's our approach. It will trickle down to the middle schools as well, because a lot of times those middle school kids, they look up to, that high school team. Oh, I want to play on this team one day, or I'm looking at this athlete and I want to be like this athlete one day. And so they do look to see what those players are doing. And so that's a positive thing, and we want to continue to move in that direction.
Chief, you had mentioned earlier that you had some statistics about this particular issue. So could you share that information?
Sure. Nationally, domestic violence cost just for lost work productivity in the United States $1.8 billion a year. That's lost
$billion?
Billion with a B. That's lost work productivity for victims of domestic violence not able to go to work and perform their duties. And just for medical expenses, in 1 year in the United States, it's $4.8 billion is what we spend through insurance, through showing up at the emergency room, through out-of-pocket expenses, medical bills, doctor bills, co-pays, the whole thing. And so that's a huge amount of money. It's huge. It's a shame. If you think what we could do in this country with $5 billion, $6 billion, if we could get rid of domestic violence, we could do a lot of good things. We can make a lot of positive things for people's lives. In the United States, we have every 9 seconds a woman is a victim of domestic violence. And then when you look at the end of a year, in 1 year, more women suffer violence at the hands of domestic violence than robbery, assaults, and car accidents combined.
Wow.
Nationally. So it's an epidemic, it's a serious issue, and I would suggest that no one wants to come home and see their mother, their grandmother, any family member be a victim of domestic violence, and it's some staggering statistics out there on the impact it has on our lives as a nation every day.
I think one of the things I notice is that kids see what we know as domestic violence, a simple fight between a boyfriend and a girlfriend is just a fight and it's no real big deal, but they don't know that it leads to a pattern or certain behavior that continues relationship after relationship after relationship.
And unfortunately, it takes about, for the average victim to finally come forward to law enforcement and talk about being a victim, it's about 4 or 5 times of assault, in the past. So most women, after their 4th assault from the same partner, that's when they finally step up and say, all right, enough is enough. But there's so many barriers that prevent them from, making that outcry for help, looking for help, what to do, that a lot of if people had the background ahead of time and knew how to do interference and intervention and stop that, maybe it wouldn't take 4 times after the first time someone witnesses it, they get that person out of a domestic violence situation.
So last year we remember a very famous professional football player who found himself in some hot water due to a domestic violence situation where he severely assaulted his then fiancée, who is now his wife. And we see now that the NFL has some public service announcements airing about not tolerating domestic violence and those types of things. So I think we find now that athletes at the professional level are starting to take a stand against domestic violence also. So this is very timely. A lot of our children look up to our professional athletes. How do you see the campaign and the event that's happening in September really tying in and addressing those types of situations that make the national news?
Right, and I think we've heard recently about more of these incidents, and I don't know if it's just more on the whole or if it's just more because of all of the social media that's out there, the television, newspapers.
It can't just have started.
Right, exactly, exactly. And so I think you're seeing both. I think you are seeing maybe more of it happening, and then you're also hearing about it in more just in general. And so it is a big issue. It is something that needs to be addressed. And I think the NFL is doing a good job of, trying to let their athletes know about what's going on. And then, you know, we get a chance to see all of those kids before they ever make it into college or
That's right.
the NFL.
Right.
You know, they've all come through high school. And so that's why I think working through the high school level at the grassroots approach is something that's really key. Everything that we can do now to mitigate, you know, what's going on, I think is key, as opposed to waiting down the line. So there's a lot of good things that we have going on with this program. I'm excited about it. It's something that needs to be done, and I think we're moving in the right direction towards that.
I got to go back to the idea of the counselors. Are they going to be receiving training on how to deal with this issue when these people come to them, when young ladies come to them? Because I know one of the issues that I read was people needing to learn how to put in a protective order. How do you encourage a young woman to go to the police and put in a protective order against someone that she thinks that she's in love with? She's 16 and doesn't have a clue about life at this point. She's still a baby, but she is being advised that this is something that she needs to do.
Well, that's a difficult process because you have barriers from the intellectual side because they just don't know what they don't know. You're going to have the parents' intervention saying it's going to be okay. You have the church intervening, saying don't worry about it, just work it out, pray about it, it'll be fine. You have their best friends are saying no, he's just going through a phase, he won't do this again. Then you have all these things that are coming into play that grown adults get confused about. And so you can only imagine the difficulties that 16-year-old girls are going to have in making those decisions. And so I would encourage the school systems with their counselors to divert those young ladies to like the Safe Place and Texas Advocacy Project, because that's what they do for a living. That's their full-time job, and help them navigate the process to do the paperwork and how to get out of that volatile relationship. Also, the county attorney's office has a staff available to work, and they can do all these opportunities are free. You can go to the county attorney's office, file the protective order. You can file all your complaints through Safe Place. All those people, those are free. So socioeconomics is not come to play in this.
Right.
The main thing is we want to let these people know there's an avenue for help and to get them out of a bad situation.
And we have Safe Place in a lot of our schools, so
Right,
they're
have the
already
Expect Respect campaigns.
right. They're already there in all of our high schools and the majority of our middle schools. So they're already working very closely with our students. So we have that opportunity available to our students, that resource available to our students. And I think from the law enforcement side, I think it's good that we're partnering with Travis County Sheriff's Department because we can work with building the character of our students so that they don't find themselves in the juvenile justice system or the criminal justice system later in life due to being an aggressor or committing a domestic violence offense against their significant other. So I think this is a good way to mitigate or prevent them from becoming another statistic. Sure. And so I think that's another great.
Exactly, because we know that if we can reach out to these young men early on and break that cycle of domestic violence, we're better off because it's shown that young men, young boys who witness domestic violence in their home growing up are twice as likely to repeat the same thing as was what they learned behavior from their fathers when they become adults. And so if we can get them early on in the process and say, look, that's not acceptable, it's not right. What you observed or what you heard about is not the way you treat each other, it's not the way you treat women. And hopefully we'll tear those statistics up and we'll have something more positive.
So any messages that you'd really like those listening or watching the show to get out of this campaign?
Well, I would just say that we do have our Kick Out event on September 23rd at 10 o'clock. Any and everyone is welcome to come out to that event to kick off the month of February as being the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We're inviting, again, our football, volleyball players to come out. They are going to get 3 hours of community service credit by coming out to the event as well, so I think that's very good. We'll get a chance to speak to them about the issue that's plaguing our society. And so really we just want to talk to them and kind of give them some things that will help them if they see this going on, or maybe they're a victim of it going on, we can give them some information to help so that they can go, make the phone call or talk to that person they need to, so that they can, stop some of this. So really, that's the message: is to come out, be a part of the event. We're going to have all of our football teams wear a purple ribbon on their helmet, and to show that we're raising awareness of this issue. And so I think that's a good thing. And we'll also have some more information going out on the website about that as well.
And I see the flyer that you all are going to be advertising that football is a contact sport, love shouldn't be.
Right.
I think that is awesome, because this makes sense. This really makes sense. Even though you don't have volleyball on here, we need to figure that out, because we do have a lot of girls in relationships with each other, and they are following that same trend. They're abusive to each other, and we need to make sure that we understand that they need to be identified too.
And from the law enforcement perspective, I think it's important that when you discuss domestic violence, you do it in an open forum and understand and let people know that it's an epidemic that needs to be addressed. 1 in 4 women are victims of domestic violence throughout this country. And so that's a big issue, and everybody has someone in their family that's been a victim. They may not know it, but they're there, and they need to bring attention to that. Some of the big things is that I think the takeaway is that no one deserves to be abused.
Right.
And we need to make that clear, regardless of your age, socioeconomic, race, creed, or color. We don't need to be abusive. That's important. And when someone steps forward to make an outcry, be a good listener.
Right.
Because it takes a lot of courage for anyone to come up and say, I've been abused. I mean, that is huge for them to finally get the intestinal fortitude to step forward and make that outcry. And then when that person does make the outcry, don't play the blame game. Don't sit there and go, well, if you'd have done this, maybe you wouldn't have been hit. If you'd have done this, maybe he wouldn't have left you. Well, we don't go there. There shouldn't be an excuse. There shouldn't be a blame. That person shouldn't have been abused because they didn't do X or Y or B.
So it's almost re-victimizing.
Exactly, re-victimizing them again. And so, and be supportive of them, because when they make that outcry that they're a victim, that is a huge moment, and that may be the only time you're able to get that person out. Because if you don't support them and be a good listener and direct resources to them, they may never come back again to say, I need help. And you'll lose that person, and unfortunately that person will be a statistic, and they'll be one of 3 women that are killed every day in the United States for domestic violence. And I don't want that on my watch, and I don't think anybody else wants that on their watch in their community.
Now, I don't know about Bev, but I'm single. And one of the questions that I ask when a man asks me out, and this is every time, have you ever hit a woman? And if you hesitate, we will not go on that date. I don't think that I'm a battering ram, and I refuse to be abused, because I do remember seeing that at home as a young lady.
I would change your question and say, have you ever hit or shoved or pushed? Because some of them, what they'll do, they'll say, I never hit them. But then they'll push them around the house, push them over the table, push them around the house, and say, well, you never asked me if I pushed anybody.
That's some good
That's
advice.
another form.
Let me broaden my questions.
You need to broaden your questions.
And I would add, have you been emotionally abusive? Because that's also a form.
Yes, it is.
So
well said.
There are different levels of abuse, and that's something big, especially with students, with the social media and and all of this stuff. We've got
The mental manipulation.
a lot of things going on that may not be physical,
Correct.
but it's also it's abusive, and we need to help our students understand that definition of what abuse and dating violence and those things are, so that they know when and how to stand up for themselves to make it stop.
Right.
That's a really good important key. I remember I visited LBJ a lot. I coached at Pierce, and so I would follow my kids to LBJ, and I was very surprised that one of my star athletes, her boyfriend, continuously fought her at school, but nobody took it serious. Nobody took it serious enough to intervene. It was like, oh yeah, so and so, they just had a fight outside. But they always do that. And the teachers were even lackadaisical about the whole thing, and I was appalled. It was like unnerving to me that nobody wanted to step in and do anything to help the young lady.
But if it had been two boys, the principals and everybody else had been all in the middle of it, I'm sure.
Of
I see that all
course.
the time.
Of course. It's something that we need to, I think, train everyone about.
Yeah, and I think that's why this campaign is really good. I mean, we're trying to get as much information out there to as many people as possible so that they are aware of what's taking place. Because again, it goes back to, I don't know if it's happening more or if we're just hearing about it more or both. But with as much, social media, television, everything that you hear on the news, the incidents that's taking place at some of the nearby universities here just recently, there's a lot of things that are going on. And I think that a campaign like this, a program like this, is something that will help get the word out about what's going on to as many people as possible.
That's a really good idea. I know that I taught both my son and my daughter that this is something that we will not tolerate. And that's not something that we allowed to happen in our home. When me and Dad had conversations, we had conversations. We didn't have fights. That's unacceptable behavior, and I think that that is something that really does start at home, and it starts when they're young. You have to teach them, and this is a wonderful program. I think that it's guiding our kids in the right direction.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, we want to thank you both for joining us, talking about this great event. Can you give us the date and location again one
Sure,
last time?
absolutely. So on Wednesday, September 23rd, we'll meet at 10 o'clock a.m. at House Park Stadium. And so we'll really have, this is who we had here last year. We expect the same groups here: Austin ISD, Del Valley ISD, Eanes ISD, Elgin ISD, Lake Travis ISD, Manor ISD, Pflugerville ISD, Hayes ISD, Bastrop ISD, Smithfield ISD, Leander ISD, and Round Rock ISD. So we've really partnered.
So are they bringing all their football teams?
They're bringing football players, volleyball players from all over Central Texas, and they will be at this event on this day for the kickoff.
So it's
on
like
September
a big
23rd.
pep rally.
Well, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it that. We're bringing together the students of these teams so that we can, again, bring awareness about this issue. So this is the kickoff event.
I know it's a serious event, but you
Sure.
know,
Right. So
seems like with all those people.
Right. I mean, we had a great turnout last year, and we've partnered again with Chief here, and we'll have Texas Advocacy Project there, Safe Place there. So we'll have a lot of different groups there. We've partnered together to make this be a kickoff event for the entire month of October. We'll continue to have announcements in the stadiums and do things like the ribbons on the football helmets to bring awareness and keep that awareness about what's going on. So it's a big collaboration for a lot of different groups in Central Texas. This is the main kickoff event for that, and I'm thankful for everyone that's going to be there to help bring all of this together and really kick off the event.
Well, as Beverly said, we greatly appreciate you all bringing this program, this project to our awareness, and hopefully we will be able to help promote and move it forward and make it even bigger than what it is.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
this has been Breaking Down the Barriers with Terry Russell and Beverly Reeves. You can join us the first and third Monday on KZI at 88.7 or kzifm.org. And you can also join us on Channel 22 on the Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 to 8, on Sunday mornings before church at 10:30, and watch our program. You can catch us on Twitter at AISD_BDB and like us on Facebook. And we do currently have an Instagram page. We'll have that information up on our Facebook and Twitter page, and you'll be able to see pictures of everything that we're doing to promote everything that is positive in AISD. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again.